Good morning, Red Group. We're back for another video. We are now on 1.3 notes, and we just learned at 1.2 that we were going to be learning how to add integers. Now, as you can see, we're going to learn how to subtract integers. Remember, integers are any whole number, positive or negative. So any whole number and their opposites. So, subtracting integers can be a little bit tricky, because we're actually working backwards. So here's an example. 5 minus 6. We know subtraction problems, but normally, up to this point, we say, can you take 6 away from 5? And you guys all said, no, because at this point, we didn't know that you could, right? We always said we had to borrow. Well, there's nothing to borrow, then you have to go into the negatives. So if I have my number line, which is right here, if I have my number line and I'm taking 5, so I'm going to go to my 5 and I start right here. Then I take 6 away. If I take 6 away, I'm working backwards 6 all the way to here. So I am back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's subtracting 6. Look where I'm at. I'm at a -1. So 5 minus 6 is equal to a -1. That's just an example to get you started so you at least understand what this is. Number lines are a huge help, so make sure you use the number line in the front of the room if you need. But make sure that you are understanding that if I go 5 this way, going negative is just going the opposite direction, okay? So a note to make, when subtracting integers, add its opposite. I sometimes call it swoosh swoosh. I'll show you what that means. So if you hear me say swoosh swoosh, there's also keep, change, change. Those are a couple different sayings that you might hear teachers use to help you to remember to add the opposite. So if I had, what this means, let's say I did 4 minus 5, okay? Swoosh, swoosh means wherever I make a dash mark, I make it again. So I turn the subtracting into an adding, and I turn the positive into a negative. Also, that would mean keep, you're going to keep the 4 the way it is, change the sign, change the integer to its opposite. That's what keep, change, change means. If I had 4 plus 5, well, 4 minus 5, if I start at the 4 and I go 5 down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm also at a -1. 4 plus 5, well, that's the same sign, so that would give me 9. You know how to do that one. Now, if I was to say 4 minus a -5, that's when it gets kind of tricky. When you're subtracting a negative, you are actually adding. So watch. If I use my swoosh swoosh, I'm actually going swoosh swoosh, making them both positive. It's like I'm just adding 4 plus 5. If I use the keep, change, change method, stays the same, keep the same, change, change. It's just 4 plus 5 now. We know that, and we know that that is 9. Now, the other way you may see it written as 4 plus a -5, which is just like this, but we just wrote it right away like with an addition sign. So 4 plus a -5 is a -1. Again, you may use your calculator, okay? It's there for a reason. You may use it. I always tend to hear, well, is this subtracting or is that a negative? Well, based on what I just showed you, it doesn't matter. You can call this 4 minus 10. You could say that this is 4 adding a negative. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. Subtracting is the same thing as adding a negative. So either way you look at it, it is subtracting or it is adding its opposite, which is a negative. So if I do 4 plus a -10, I would go back to what we learned yesterday, and I do the opposite. Remember I said if you take the absolute value of each number and you subtract them, you take the greater absolute value sign. So 10, the difference between 10 and 4 is 6, and 10 is larger, so I'm going to take its sign, which is a -6. Okay, use your calculator if you need. Now, for number 2, I'm going to go ahead and use that keep, change, change. I now have a -3. Oops, sorry, shut the camera. I now have a -3 plus 7. Okay, so the difference between 7, I can always turn this around and do 7 minus 3. Well, that equals 4. So my answer is 4. 7 is the greater absolute value. 7 is positive, meaning my answer is going to be positive. Number 3, we have keep, change, change. So this is really now just 8 plus 6. And we can do that. 8 plus 6 is just 14. That's all it is. Okay? So these can be tricky, but you have to be very, very careful. So for your bonus question, the one I need you to do to show me you know what I'm asking and that you're following along, your bonus question is going to be a 12 minus a -10. What will that answer be? Keep, change, change. What will your answer be? Okay? We're going to go ahead and you can pause this video to make sure you complete that problem. So I'll give you a second to pause it. When you have finished the problem, you may come back and go ahead and hit resume, and we're going to keep playing the video so you can keep hearing what example 2 is going to be. So go ahead and pause your video. All right, you should have done your bonus question and found the answer there. So we can go ahead and get on to example 2. I'm going to read example 2 to you. A fish is swimming at the bottom of your pond that is 20 feet deep. The fish then swims up and jumps 2 feet out of the water. What is the vertical distance the fish traveled? So I'm trying to find, in all, how far did this fish travel? Now, you know me, and if I get to a story problem, I love to draw pictures. So I'm going to underline my keywords. 20 feet. Fish then jumps 2 feet out of the water. Okay, so there's my underlining, my keywords. I'm going to draw a picture. If I have some water, and I have a fish that jumps, or that swims all the way down 20 feet. Make sure you're drawing this picture. Then the fish decides to go for a swim, and it comes back up, and it goes all the way up, and then it jumps 2 more feet out of the water. How far is this distance, the distance that it went down? Well, we know the distance is 20 feet. So it's trying to ask me, how far did it jump? Where did it go? Okay, so we're trying to find the total distance this fish traveled here. Okay, so we have 20 feet, and then we have another 20 feet, and then we have a quick little 2-foot jump out of the water. When we are talking about distance, you can't really go a negative distance. Okay, if it asks how far the fish is below water, well, yeah, it's 20 feet below water. So that could be a -20. But if we're talking about distance traveled, those numbers should remain positive. So I have 20, 20, and 2. How do I find them all together? What operation would I use to do it all together? Okay, I would like you to pause the video, raise your hand, and tell me which option you should do. Okay, now that you have raised your hand and I have talked to you, you should know exactly what operation you're going to do and how to go from here. So, you should be adding here. And I should have come by and told you that. And you should have my signature right here to tell me that I did talk to you. In order to get your points, you need that signature. So if I'm going to add these, I'm going to just do 20 plus 20 plus 2. and that would be 42 feet. Now I didn't use negatives again because it was a distance, and I want to make sure I understand the distance. Yes, he went a negative 20, but if I want to know how far he traveled altogether, then I'm going to do 20 plus 20 plus 2. All right? Good job. Go ahead and get started on your homework. Make sure you raise your hand so I can tell you that you are complete with this section of your notes and I can give you your points. Great job.